back to the Six Pennies podcast. We got all six pennies here today, and we're just going to do a little current events, talking about United Airlines story. By this point, I'm sure everyone and their mom has heard of or seen the video, unfortunate video of the United Airlines passenger being literally dragged off the flight. Looked like he was part of a fight club at the back of the plane. And what were your initial thoughts when you saw that video? We'll start with you, Albert.
When I first saw it, because everyone asked me if like the guy can sue, like what is he gonna get back and all that kind of
Right.
stuff. And the first thing my first reactions were like, no, because he bought a ticket, and every ticket, every ticket that everyone purchases, there's always fine print regarding what the airline can do or what the airline staff can do. And so when I first saw it, it was gross, like it was bad, but at the same time, I was like, why didn't he just leave? Why was it escalated to that point? And so I felt for him, but at the same time, I wasn't outraged like 95% of the population out there.
Gotcha. What about you, Timmy?
Yeah, I wasn't outraged either. It was just a bad looking video, and like in this age of social media sharing and like everything being available and on video immediately, it's just a bad look for United. Like Albie said though, I mean there are stipulations on your ticket, like they can make you leave even if it doesn't sound fair, even if it's seems like it's United's fault for or not even overbooking, just wanting to get their people to a different place, and
Right.
kicking people off their plane. They can do it. And as more of these articles have come out about that, I guess I've seen more of that side. I think my thing for United is just like they are supposed to offer like dollars for people to get off the plane, and I think they did, probably $400, $600. They went up to I think 800.
Yeah.
And I'm really surprised nobody wanted to leave at that point. But shouldn't they have just kept going like to 1,000 or like to 12, 1,500? Because then they would definitely get people out of there, and it's like avoids the entire mess or any possible problem later, right?
Yeah, that was my thought as well. But I think they actually went up to 1,000 and no one took it. But I can't remember if there was like a max that is company policy or whatever. But at the same time, I've thought about, so last couple of times I've been on United, they've overbooked a flight and they've, offered these vouchers, and vouchers aren't really that great. It's not straight cash, so like they expire within a certain number of months, and you got to use them. And for the most part, most of the time when I'm flying nowadays, like I'm using points anyway. So the vouchers are kind of a waste of time a lot of times.
Yeah.
How can you always use points? Like at some point you have to be buying, right?
No,
are you using the reserve points? Like
I'm using reserve points. Yeah, credit card points, and
got it.
I can't remember. Well, I do remember the last time I bought a plane ticket, and that was a couple of weeks ago. But we can get into that later. But before that point, it's been like at least 5 years since I actually paid straight cash for a ticket.
So you're kind of like Angela Shu's dad, who has like 100 travel credit cards, and he just uses all those points, and he hasn't paid for any of his flights for like 3 decades or something ridiculous.
I respect that.
Is he the points guy? Is he the blogger or something? There's a bunch of them out there.
Yeah.
Is he one of them?
No, it's funny because we were all here a couple weekends ago, or they were up here, and we talked about how there is a points guy, and her dad should start like a Taiwanese points guy for all the fobs.
Oh, that's a good one.
But I just want to go back to this United story. The flight was from Chicago to where? Louisville, right?
Somewhere to Louisville. I don't know if it was Chicago. Was it at O'Hare?
I don't know. I don't know where it was from, but if it's going to Louisville, I'll take the 800 every time to just delay getting to Kentucky. I mean, come on.
Yeah, honestly, I've never seen it even get up to near 800. The most I've heard of is 4, at least in person. So 8 is pretty good. I probably would have taken it. But
do you guys know how long it takes to like drive from Chicago to Louisville? Can you guess?
I bet it's really short, huh? Like 2 hours.
Is it 4 hours maybe?
It's close. It's close. It's between 4 and 5. So it's not like crazy. It's Houston to Dallas, LA to San Francisco. It's not like that far. They could definitely do it like in an afternoon or in a night.
No, instead it cost the guy a concussion and nosebleed and
What
I mean,
were
be a
it
big
cost
lawsuit.
United like millions and millions, hundreds of millions in their market cap for the last few days.
Yeah, they lost 800 the day after.
Yeah.
What were your reactions to the guy running back on the plane? Like that part was more disturbing to me. I don't know why he was just like standing back there and all bloodied and stuff.
I don't know how he got back on. Like,
Yeah,
I don't know how he, like, did he fight? Like, I want to see video of, after they dragged him off the plane, like what happened at that point before he got back on the plane.
yeah. We have to remember also, it wasn't like the United crew that did anything to him. It's just like the Federal Aviation Agency that's there, like trying to get him off the plane. They're the ones that ended up beating him up and stuff. But yeah, I mean, once he starts running back on the plane and like causing the ruckus at that point, then he's like a threat to everybody on the plane, right? Like you never know what can happen.
Yeah, at that point,
after all the stuff that's happened,
that,
9/11 and after
yeah, at
that.
that
So
point, it's definitely a national security threat. Like you can't run
Right.
back, leave the authorities, and run back on the plane, no matter how mad you are. I feel like he was in some type of like weird mental state at that point.
so Mock, do you are you against United Airlines now?
No, I mean, so
No
I
way.
can't. I'm not allowed to. I'm not allowed to really say anything bad about United Airlines for the rest of my life. So a couple years ago, for your wedding, actually, for Timmy's wedding, a friend of ours noticed that there's like a glitch on the United Airlines website for $5 flights everywhere. All domestic were $5, and me and Albert ended up getting like 10 or so tickets between us to a bunch of different places for $5 each, and they ended up honoring them the next day, and that was definitely one of the happiest days of the year. And so from that point forward, like I said, I couldn't say anything bad about United Airlines. But at the same time, like when it comes to this situation, so that guy that got dragged out happened to be of Asian descent, right? And um, on that note, China is kind of in an uproar over this, and there's a lot of talk about strikes, and not going United, and it's could be end up being a really big deal for United Airlines when it comes to flying in those Asian countries. So, what about you guys? From an airline loyalty standpoint, do you have any airline loyalty?
Sorry, I started looking up our old G chats about the United $5 thing. So let's talk about that in a minute. But going to the loyalty, I don't have any one loyalty. I normally fly Southwest though, just because from LA there's so many different options. I think in general they're good about being on time, and that's the biggest thing for me. And then just it's easier to like board and get off the plane, and flies into Hobby in Houston, which is just a better airport. So I guess Southwest is my leader, and then the next big one I guess would be Delta. I just think they're the
Delta.
yeah. I fly them to Atlanta and stuff when I go for work, and they're
Gotcha.
they're definitely the best one.
Is that from a convenience standpoint and then like price point?
For Delta or for South? Both?
For both.
Yeah, I mean, typically I would just go, yeah, both of those are pretty equally important. I'm all about nonstop flights. So Southwest probably has the most of them, and then they're mostly reasonably cheap. And then Delta, if it's just like the flight to Atlanta or certain other places, then that one's the best.
Okay. Albert, what about you? Being a Dallas guy, are you all American Airlines?
I don't really have airline loyalty. I do like every time I see a Facebook post hating on American Airlines about their delays or cancellations, I always like defend American Airlines just because they are from Dallas. But for me personally, I don't really fly AA very often. I live right off 75, a highway in Dallas, which is straight shot to Love Field. And Southwest flies,
Southwest.
yeah,
Gotcha.
Southwest flies out of Love Field, and I love Southwest. They give me like so many of the free drink vouchers, and it's just amazing. I love Southwest. With that being said, though, I'll choose anything if if the price is right, and then like Timmy, I also prefer nonstop flights. So nonstop, price is right, and just no fees on like checking bags and stuff like that. Then I'm good to go. For United, for this case, I'm waiting for all their prices to drop, and then I'm gonna buy like all these
Same
tickets
here.
again. Like,
Same here.
yeah, so I can't wait to fly United.
I really hope that's the end result. Like they are forced to publicly apologize, and as a way to kind of rescue their airline, in a way they drop all their flights, especially the international ones, down to, I don't know, at least half.
Oh man.
But that seems to be the trend nowadays. I feel like back in the day, maybe like 10 years ago, there was a lot more loyalty towards certain airlines, especially in the business crowd. You fly the same ones every single day, every single week. And for me, back in the day, before the United and Continental kind of merger, I was completely loyal to Continental. That was all I flew. And
yeah, me too.
Yeah, so after the changeover, I was kind of same way. All my points were on United, so I just kept going with them. I hadn't even flown Southwest until maybe a couple years ago. But it sounds like that all changed, and sounds like all of us now are at a point where it's kind of no loyalty, just cheapest flight option that is reasonable. We're not going to be doing like 2 or 3 stops for a flight. But you guys have any like good airline stories? We can start with that $5 United situation.
Let
me give you some more background on it. So shouts to Whaley Shu. He found this glitch. I don't know how he did it because he was early too. Yeah. He was faster than like Slick Deals or anything. I think he said he happened to be looking at tickets for coming to my wedding. This is October of 2013. And then he saw it was just $5. He's like, I don't know what's going on. And so apparently it was for anywhere. He sent it to me. I sent it to a bunch of other people. So Mock, it looks like you told me that you got 10 total flights. Pretty good.
10 total tickets, yeah. Like 4 different tickets. Flights, yeah.
Yeah, so I only got like tickets for myself to go and my wife to go back to Houston like for that Christmas. And then I was really busy. And then you were like, how come you didn't book more? And I was like, I was busy telling everybody to come to my wedding because it just happened to be like the perfect time. Yeah. And it turned out, I just counted, there's 21 tickets for people that came to my wedding for $5 each.
Awesome.
That's amazing. That is amazing.
And did you know that like they had I forgot about this, they had another glitch like a few weeks later?
Yeah.
Did they honor that one too?
No, they didn't. I think it was like $50 flights. Well, they didn't honor it. You would know because you booked 19 flights for that one.
Oh, that's right. That
was like international too. I think I booked like maybe 8 to 10 of them, and then it ran out. But you were on it. I remember I was like chatting with you one of those days, and you just didn't respond for like 20 minutes. I was like, oh, this guy's booking. That's definitely like funny, the craziest story.
Yeah, what's funny about that entire story was just how mad our friends got at us.
Seriously,
for not telling them. Yeah, they were just hating on the fact that, hey, I got a $5 flight to North Carolina, $5 flight to Vegas, $5 flight to LA. I mean, thinking back on it now, yeah, it was kind of obnoxious to advertise that, but at the same time, like, they were just straight up hating. It's like, why didn't you tell us? How come you didn't let us know? Like, all this kind of stuff. And I was like, I'm sorry. Like, it only lasted 5 minutes, and I could only buy tickets for myself. With that being said, if it happened
definitely
again,
lasted like an hour or so. If you're able to book
it's maybe like 45 minutes.
No, and you guys definitely were greedy to keep buying your own. Like first thing I did after I bought mine was just tell like as many people as I could. Just text
I told everyone. I told everyone that was on GChat. Like I didn't have time to pick up my phone and text people, man. Like it's because you didn't know.
I didn't tell anybody. But I would say, like, if it happens ever again, I will tell people, and also I'll go at it differently because they were domestic flights, right? So I would have done the most expensive ones first. I would have done Hawaii, like even Alaska, like stuff like that. So yeah.
Well, first thing I would have done probably is like I would have done Hawaii, but if it was that cheap, I wouldn't have done like one to Hawaii. I would have done every weekend for like all summer. And then if you just go to like a couple, and not just Hawaii, like to a bunch of places, literally like almost every weekend. And if you add it all up, it's still like so much cheaper than one flight.
Yeah.
That's probably what I would have done. But the funniest thing I think about that story is that I told Andy and Cynthia Chang about it. I think I told Cynthia about it because she was online, and I guess she called Andy, and Cynthia was still trying to figure out if she could go or not. Andy like booked the ticket right away and didn't book one for Cynthia. And then, she had to like book her own later or something. It was really funny. He just like booked his own and then he was done with it.
Hey, scared money don't make money, man. You can't hesitate for stuff like this.
True.
That
So
was
true.
my biggest mistake looking back. I hesitate, or I thought about, which I thought specifically. I looked at my calendar. I was like picking which weekends and stuff. In hindsight, I should just bought every single weekend for wherever.
$5.
Yeah,
It's
what was I
basically
doing?
free.
Yeah. But yeah, I'll never forget the next day. So the whole time we booked the flights, all those tickets, and the sale was over, the glitch was over, and then we were just kind of waiting to see what was going to happen. I don't think anyone really fully believed that they would honor the tickets, and then happened to send out a tweet the next day. United did, and we're like, we're going to honor the tickets this time, and it was a glorious celebration.
Yeah, we were checking like forums and like refreshing them and stuff, and yeah, even you, Mock, you weren't even believing.
Yeah,
and then
I didn't think so.
When we found out, like your messages to me are in all caps for like 10 minutes straight. I don't even. Pretty amazing.
Yeah, I remember the day after on Twitter, I would just troll the United Twitter account. I was like, "There's no way they cannot honor this. They are a respectable company, and they're looking over they're looking after their customers and stuff like that." And then when they sent out that tweet, yeah, you're right. Like just that feeling of elation, it was awesome.
It was amazing. It was definitely one of the best deals of my life. But the glitch they had a couple of weeks later, I remember that now a little bit. So it wasn't the same. Like you couldn't book just outright. You had to go and click something on their. It's still on their website, but click something and it created the glitch. But they didn't honor it because they said it was hacking. Like us clicking a couple different options meant that it was hacking.
Yeah, I think it was like taking the stopover flight or something, and yeah, they just said something that it wasn't legal, even though it was so easy to do.
Yeah. Okay, so let's go from that. That's kind of our best airline stories. Let's go to kind of worst airline stories. Do you guys have any stories of when you guys might have missed a flight or just a really bad airline experience? Maybe you guys got dragged off a flight yourselves. Albert, you got any?
I have a couple actually. So one is related to that $5 glitch. So you and I we bought Vegas tickets and for like a random weekend, and for United, in my head in Dallas here, United is DFW, like 100% DFW. I thought Love Field is only Southwest flights, Southwest Airlines. And so the whole week I was just planning on like, this is when I'm going to leave work. This is how I'm going to get to DFW. Since it's farther, this is what I have to do and all this kind of stuff. And it ended up being Southwest, or it ended up being at Love Field. And then my friend Tim, he drove me from DFW to Love Field, like he was going like 110 miles per hour.
Man.
And he was going like down like the median because it was still trafficy. So he was going down like I forgot what that road is called, but basically
shoulder?
He was just, the shoulder. It was just like on his blinkers, and it was like we were having a kid or something. Rushing to the hospital. We get there, and I run into the terminal. I didn't know that Love Field had two terminals, but the United terminal at Love Field is literally one gate, and it's just that flight. And so I run up to the desk, and they're like, "Are you Albert?" And I'm like, "Yes." Well, that's your plane leaving right there. And the lady just points at the plane. The lady just points at the plane as I'm like really sad. And then like I called you, and the first thing you said was like, "What the F happened, man?"
I didn't believe you. I didn't believe you for the longest time.
Yeah.
Me and Stanley were the other two guys that were going on this trip to Vegas, $5 flight, and we were on the way to the airport, and you're calling me and texting me and stuff, and I was like, "What? No, you're on the flight. You're just joking, man." And then, yeah, I couldn't believe it. It was really sad, and the worst thing was we were only there. We were only planning to be there for 20 hours, so you couldn't even catch the next flight and make it there in time to make it back. Yeah. So that's a rough one. Timmy, you got one?
Yeah, well, for that one, I remember I didn't know about it until later that day because I texted Albie to ask how much money he had made in Vegas, and he just texted something really sad and angry at the same time. I think it was just like I didn't make my effing flight, and that was it. I didn't talk to him again.
Yeah, it was.
um,
I was pretty upset. But
so
at the same time, it was only $5. So then I couldn't get
Yeah, you
that
can't
mad
make
about
say
it.
it too upset.
Yeah.
didn't you guys get $5 Spirit flights? This might be your next story, but Albie, you came to LA like on a $5 flight, right?
So
Or
Spirit was
less?
yeah Spirit was having like a free flights voucher at all their El Phoenix
Oh yeah.
restaurants in Dallas
Oh
for
yeah, that's right.
like a random Saturday or something like that. So I went to it and I went to two El Phoenix locations and got like 8 of those free vouchers and I ended up using it for LA, but there was a loophole with the vouchers. It wasn't like a flight voucher, it was like a money voucher. So then I would have to use like 4 of them just to get to LA and then 4 of them to get back to Dallas.
And I remember nobody had flown Spirit, so we just knew that that you couldn't really bring luggage or anything, or we weren't sure how big of the carry-on you could bring. So you just brought like one of those really tiny little gym backpacks, and like barely brought anything for that trip, and just borrowed my clothes.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Okay, so
that
my
was early Spirit too. So early Spirit, in my
yeah.
opinion, wasn't as bad as now because they were
Yeah.
still trying to, get their name out there, and they were a lot nicer with like charging fees and stuff. But
I feel like Mock should just share his story before I do, because I assume that it's going to be Spirit.
Yeah, so Spirit was on my good side for a while. They so their planes are really uncomfortable. They squeeze you in there like sardines. Like you can't even see your row until you get like within 3 rows distance. Like is that tightly packed. And but at the same time, this time last year or back in July of last year, we had planned a trip to San Diego in mid-July, and we were planning to go through Spirit, which is non-refundable, and then our son came, kind of out of the blue, and we had to cancel all the flights we had planned, and United wouldn't cancel our flight for us, but Spirit did, so they're
whoa.
on my good side after that. Yeah, so they gave us a full refund back for the San Diego trip, which is really nice. Um, so they were on my good side until like 2 weeks ago. We were in Denver, five of his guys. It was like a going away trip for a friend's show before he went to China. And so on our last day there, we were supposed to, the flight's Monday evening at 5 o'clock in Denver. And we're running a little late. We hit a little traffic and we left the casino a little later than we thought. We get to the airport. And so the thing about Spirit, they won't spend money. They're so cheap, they won't spend money on a mobile app. So they force you. You're supposed to print out all your tickets beforehand. So I thought the whole time we were just gonna get there like an hour before the flight and print tickets at the kiosk. So we get there like maybe 40 minutes before the flight takes off, and we were like run to the kiosk. I try to print, it won't let me. It says see the front desk. So at this point, I'm like, okay, I'll see the front desk, and they're gonna just tell me that I need to pay, whatever, $10 or whatever to print the boarding pass. So I go up there, give her my information. I'm still like panting from running across the terminal, and then the only thing she says to me is like, "You missed it." I was like, "No, actually, no, I haven't yet. I still have 40 minutes. Just print me the boarding pass. I'll run through security. I'll pay whatever you need me to pay for the boarding pass." And she's like, "No, you missed it. There's nothing I can do." And even at this point right now, as I'm saying this, I still don't know whether she was just like trolling me, like she was just trying to screw me over, or she really couldn't do anything. But so I just helpless there. And me and my friend Justin ended up being the only ones who didn't happen to take like a screenshot of our ticket, because we had checked in the previous day, but they're not supposed to use screenshot. But somehow, like, our friend Stanley was in TSA and he was like panicking, and he kept trying to use a screenshot and it wouldn't go through. And literally, like, the last time they let him try it, finally beeped and he was like, "Oh, thank you." And then so me and Justin were stranded there. We panicked right at first. We were like, man. So we did exactly what you're talking about, like between measuring distance between Chicago and Louisville. We're like, okay, so should we just rent a car and drive back like tonight, get there like 14 hours, get there back home at 6 in the morning. But then we ended up buying tickets. So this is my ticket buying story. We went up to the Frontier desk, and the ticket there happened to be, I don't know how, it happened to be $25 cheaper than what it showed online. So I don't know if that's a trick. Like, you should always buy tickets right at the front desk. But we ended up getting one-way flights back the next morning for like $70. So it didn't end up being that bad, but it was still really annoying.
So that's why you were so adamant in wanting to print out your boarding pass in New Orleans that one day.
Now you know, man. Now you know. Man, that New Orleans, I still have nightmares about that night, man. Like, I was sitting there at that computer trying so hard. I was a little inebriated, trying so hard to print those tickets.
No one knows how you got there, man. That's all I'm gonna say.
I don't even know how long. Like, time stood still. I don't know how long I was sitting there trying to print those boarding passes. But thanks for your help. Finally.
Yeah. I will never get into the details because what happens at a bachelor party stays at a bachelor party. But that was an awesome scene that I fell into.
The only thing I know from that is that Albie told me that he went to find Mock just to make sure everybody knows, who was trying to print his boarding pass and was desperately trying to do that in the business center. And then he went over and saw like 10 of them printed out already. So that's all I know about it. It's pretty great.
Really? That's what happened? Okay, man.
Well, I'll just finish with my little story. It's back to United Airlines, and this
is a good story or bad story?
I mean, it's not great. I don't know. None of these are great, right? I was going to Chicago for work, and it's one of those flights where I had a great seat, but then for United, the way they board, that means that I was boarding last or in the last group. And so my little carry-on luggage couldn't fit in the overhead, which is my biggest pet peeve. And so I had to check that for the gate pickup. And then we got to Chicago O'Hare, and it happened to be like a huge torrential downpour right when we got there, to where they couldn't bring the luggage in because they just couldn't have people working out there. And so I was sitting there, I had to wait at the airport. I was like, I'm not going to wait, or I'm not going to like tell them to send the luggage in a couple days because I have work. I was visiting a friend first, but I still needed my luggage because I had nothing else with me. So I ended up sitting at the airport. It was already 11 at night. I waited till like 3, 4 in the morning, I think. It's finally when I was able to get my luggage and get out of there. And then I got out of there, and the place was all flooded, so no taxis were available. It was before Uber. So there were no taxis that could even get into the airport. There were only a couple that were there. I ended up having to like taxi pool with like 5 people, and got into my friend's place at like 6 in the morning instead of 10:30 at night or something. So not great.
Yeah, Chicago surprisingly has really, really bad weather every time I travel.
Yeah, it's terrible.
So I do want to mention an international story that I experienced. So,
all right,
in law school, I studied abroad for like a couple months in the summers, and I went to school in Austria, but I had a layover in Reykjavik, Iceland, on the way to Europe, and it was terrible because the layover, I didn't know at the time I bought it, but the layover was basically overnight. Like, we got in at like 10 p.m. and then the next flight was at 6 a.m. and they have no hotels in the airport. So we're like, like, what do we do? Like, what are we supposed to do? Like, and the front desk person was like, just pointing, because they don't really speak English very well. So they were just pointing at all these people who are in the same boat, and they've just like pushed all these chairs together to like have a makeshift bed. So we
like making forts and stuff.
Yeah, there's literally hundreds of people just sleeping in the terminal, and so it was like me and like 4 other friends, and so we're like, oh, okay, I guess we have to find like rows of seats, make our own beds, and like try to like get a couple hours of sleep. So we did that, and then like 4 a.m. the next morning, we wake up to like these Icelandic security officers just pounding their, like, just making loud noises, yelling in Icelandic language, and just waking everyone up. And it was like the worst experience because like their airport opens at 5, so I guess at 4 a.m. is when they wake everyone up, so then they can clean and have people come in and like set up the airport again. And so it was just like the worst start to our European trip, and so I'm never gonna forget that layover. That was the worst.
It's pretty bad. Yeah, so yeah, we just want to take this chance to kind of talk a little bit United Airlines and talk about just different airline stories. Everyone's got some. We all fly, a few times every year, so the chances are you're gonna have some good experiences and bad experiences. But hopefully, the good outweigh the bad going forward. But thanks everyone for tuning in. Please give us a like on Facebook at Six Pennies Podcast and subscribe to us on YouTube.